The pros and cons of living in Queens, New York in 2026, and the honest truth. Queens is one of the best places to live in New York City, but nobody talks about the real downsides. Today, I'm going to give you both. Welcome back. I'm Maureen Folan, licensed real estate broker serving Queens and Long Island. And today, I want to be upfront about something before we dive in. I'm not an outsider looking at this borough from a distance. I was raised in Queens. I went to school here, my family still lives here, and my business is rooted here. So when I talk about what it's like to actually live in this borough, the good days and the frustrating ones, I'm not reading from a brochure. I'm talking about my home and my real life experience. And honestly, that's exactly why I can give you both sides honestly. I love Queens, but I know its quirks, its headaches, and the things that genuinely catch people off guard when they move here. So today, you're gonna hear all of it. Today, I'm breaking down the pros and cons of living in Queens, New York in 2026, because you deserve the real picture before making one of the biggest financial decisions of your life. Queens is genuinely one of the most unique places on earth. It's not Manhattan, it's not Long Island, it is the Goldilocks borough for the right person. But it's not for everyone. By the end of this video, you'll know which one you are. Let's get into it. The pros. Pro number one, the global food hub and immigrant heart. Let's start with the one Queens is most famous for. And honestly, it doesn't get enough credit. I grew up here from immigrant parents, and I still get surprised by this borough's depth. Queens is not just diverse, it is officially one of the most ethnically diverse places on the entire planet. More languages are spoken in Queens than any other county in the United States. Think about that for a second. Not the most in New York, the most in the entire country. And that's because Queens has been the front door for immigrants to New York City for generations, including my family. This is where people land when they come to build something. Greeks in Astoria, South Asians and Latin Americans in Jackson Heights, Chinese and Korean communities in Flushing, Indians in Jamaica. Every wave of immigration has left a permanent mark on this borough. And that's not a talking point. That's the lived fabric of this place. I saw it growing up. My neighbors, my classmates, the families around me, and that's Queens. What that means on a practical day-to-day level is that the food scene here is unlike anything you'll find anywhere else in the country. We're not talking about a few ethnic restaurants scattered around. We're talking about hyper niche cultural pockets that go incredibly deep. Tibetan food in Jackson Heights, authentic Greek in Astoria, and I mean real Greek, not the tourist version. The city's largest and most expansive Chinatown in Flushing with regional Chinese cuisines you genuinely cannot find anywhere else in New York. And then there's the Queens Night Market in Flushing Meadows, Corona Park. A world-renowned destination with over 90 countries represented and most plates running from $5 to $8. You're eating food from all around the world at prices that do not exist in Manhattan or Long Island. It's one of those things that makes you feel like Queens has figured something out where nowhere else has. For a lot of people, the food in the community alone are reason enough to be here. I've had clients relocate here specifically because of it, and growing up here, I completely understand why. Pro number two, transit flexibility that no other borough can match. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough when people compare Queens to its neighbors. Queens is the only borough that truly bridges the gap between the subway system and the suburbs. What does that mean in practice? It means that neighborhoods like Forest Hills and Woodside, you actually have a choice every morning. You can take the subway for $2.90, or you could hop on the Long Island Railroad and be sitting in Grand Central in 15 minutes. That kind of flexibility is genuinely rare, and for people who work in different parts of the city on different days, it's a total game changer. Then there's the airport edge. If you travel for work or for fun, Queens puts you in 15 minutes from both JFK and the newly completed world-class LaGuardia Airport. Compare that to someone who's living in Brooklyn or the Upper West Side. They're spending 45 minutes and $60 in an Uber just to get to the terminal. Queens residents save hundreds of hours and dollars every single year just on airport access. And one more thing worth mentioning is the Interborough Express, the IBX. This light rail project is currently the most talked about transit development in the city. It's designed to connect Queens and Brooklyn directly without forcing everyone to route through Manhattan first. It's still in development, but when it's built, it will fundamentally change the commute calculus for a wide range of Queens. If you're buying now, that's upside you're getting for free. If you're trying to figure out which Queens neighborhood makes the most sense for your commute, your budget, and your lifestyle, that is exactly what I help people work through. Give me a call or text me at 646-651-7127. Free conversation, no pressure. I know this borough neighborhood by neighborhood. Okay, let's get back to it. Another pro of living in Queens is more life for your money. Let's talk about value, because this is one of the most compelling arguments for Queens in 2026. New York City is not cheap. We all know that. But within the 5 boroughs, Queens offers a significantly better value proposition than its neighbors. And I want to be specific about what that actually looks like. The housing variety here is extraordinary. In Long Island City, you can find high-rise luxury condos with Manhattan skyline views. In Jackson Heights, there are beautiful pre-war apartments with real architectural character. In Bayside or Douglaston, you can find detached houses, driveways, backyards, the whole thing, at prices that would be laughable in comparable Brooklyn neighborhoods. And here's something that surprises a lot of people coming from Long Island. Queens property taxes are significantly lower than Nassau or Suffolk County. Long Island's property taxes are notoriously punishing. Queens gives you a suburban style home, often with a yard and a driveway, at a fraction of the ongoing carrying costs. Now, I want to be balanced here, and I'll come back to this cons section, because Queens residents pay New York City income tax that Long Island residents don't pay. But purely based on housing costs and property taxes, Queens consistently outperforms Manhattan and Long Island for people who want space without the full suburban price tag. Long Island City condos, Jackson Heights pre-war buildings, Bayside detached homes. Pro number 4. Parks and outdoor space that rival anything in the city. Queens has green space that people consistently underestimate. And in 2026, this is more relevant than ever. Let's look at Flushing Meadows Corona Park as being the anchor. Most people know it from the Unisphere. The US Open is played there every August, and this summer, it's the site of the official FIFA World Cup fan zone for the entire New York region. It's not a passive walkthrough park. It is a living part of the borough. And then there's Long Island City waterfront. And if you haven't been recently, you must go. The views of the Manhattan skyline from the Long Island City waterfront are arguably the best in existence. State-of-the-art playgrounds, piers, green lawns. It's a completely different experience than being inside Manhattan looking at itself. And then there's something uniquely Queens, the Rockaways. Queens is the only borough with a real beach culture. You can take the subway or ferry to the Rockaways for the price of a transit fare, and you land at a genuine beach with a surf scene, boardwalk food, and real ocean. That does not exist anywhere else in the 5 boroughs, period. Pro number 5, stable, multi-generational communities. This last pro is harder to quantify, but I hear it from clients consistently, and I lived it myself growing up here, so I want to talk about it honestly. Queens has a feeling of permanence that is increasingly rare in New York City. In parts of Manhattan and Brooklyn, there's a transient quality. People cycle in and they cycle out every year or two. Neighborhoods shift, things change in the community. But the community fabric doesn't have time to develop. Queens is different. People put down roots here and stay. Families plant themselves in Bayside, Middle Village, or Fresh Meadows, and you see 3 generations still in the same neighborhood. My family is still here. I built my business here. That's not an accident. It's a reflection of what this place is. Part of that stability comes back from the immigrant foundation that I had mentioned earlier. When families come here from another country to build a life, they're not treating it as a 2-3 year experiment. They're here. They invest in the block, they know their neighbors, they care about the schools, the parks, the local businesses. That energy compounds over time into something genuinely special. And for buyers, especially families, this shows up in real, tangible ways. Neighborhood watch culture, local institutions that have been around for decades, neighbors who actually know each other's names, that have block parties and barbecues together. If that's the kind of community you're looking for, Queens delivers it in a way that most of the city simply doesn't anymore. If you're seriously considering a move to Queens, I put together a free buyer prep checklist. And if you're a buyer, it actually helps you understand what sellers are thinking, which gives you an edge. Download it free at maureenfolan.com. No email required. I've gone over a lot of pros of living in Queens, but since I want to be very real with you today, I'm going to get into the cons because like every place, no place is perfect. Let's talk about con number 1, the transit deserts in Eastern Queens. All right, let's be honest, because I told you at the top I would be. I've spent several minutes talking about Queens' incredible transit access, and that is absolutely true for Western Queens. But if you move into Eastern Queens, neighborhoods like Belrose, Whitestone, Fresh Meadows, parts of Hollis, the transit pictures change dramatically. Large parts of Eastern Queens are what planners call transit deserts. No nearby subways, buses that run infrequently and are slow. If you live in these areas and work in Manhattan, your commute can realistically involve a bus to a train transfer that runs 75 minutes or more each way. That's not a small thing. Over a year, that's hundreds of hours of your life. And there's an added layer of disruption right now. The Queens bus network redesign has been fully implemented as of 2026. The goal was to improve overall speed and efficiency, and for some corridors, it did. But many residents are still adjusting to cut routes and relocated stops and then added walking time to their daily commute. If you're looking at a specific neighborhood in Eastern Queens, I would encourage you to map out your exact route before you fall in love with the house. Con number 2, parking and traffic wars. If you own a car, and in Queens, many people do, parking is a daily source of stress that I would be doing you disservice just to gloss over. In denser neighborhoods like Astoria and Sunnyside, residents regularly report spending 20 to 30 minutes circling for street parking after work. That is not an exaggeration, and that's the lived reality for a lot of people. And alternate side parking rules mean that even once you find a spot, you're moving the car twice a week. And then there's the highway situation. Queens sits geographically between Manhattan and Long Island, which means the LIE, the Grand Central Parkway, and the BQE are not just your roads. They're everybody's roads. Every person driving between Manhattan and Long Island passes through Queens. During peak hours, these highways are effectively parking lots. A quick trip to Nassau County can easily run 45 minutes to an hour in traffic. If you're coming from the suburbs expecting suburban traffic, this will be an adjustment. It's manageable. Millions of people do it, but you need to go in with your eyes open. Let's get into con number 3, flooding and climate risk. This one is increasingly important in 2026, and I think it deserves real attention. Queens has a flooding problem, and it's getting worse. Due to aging infrastructure and the borough's geography, neighborhoods like Woodside, Hollis, and East Elmhurst are prone to severe basement and street flooding during heavy rainstorms. We're not talking about a once-a-decade event. With the frequency of intense storms increasing, this is becoming a seasonal reality for some areas. The financial impact is real too. Even in homes that haven't experienced direct flood damage, flood insurance premiums in Queens zones have a significant increase in the last couple of years. This is an ongoing carrying cost that needs to factor into your budget when you're evaluating a property. If you are seriously considering buying a home in Queens, I always recommend checking the FEMA flood zone maps for that specific address. Not just the neighborhood generally, but the actual parcel. This is something I walk my buyers through because the difference between one block and the next block can be significant. Let's talk about con number 4, the double tax punch. I mentioned earlier that Queens property taxes are lower than Long Island's, and that's true, but I want to be complete because there's a tax story on the other side that Long Island residents don't face. Queens residents pay New York City income tax. That's an additional 3 to 3.8% on top of state and federal taxes. For a household earning over $150,000 a year, that's $5,000 gone before you even see your paycheck. Long Island residents don't pay this. So when you're comparing the true cost of living in Queens versus Nassau, you need to add that number back into the equation. And while Queens is more affordable than Manhattan, it's still running roughly 41% above the national average for the cost of living in 2026. Neighborhoods like Long Island City and Forest Hills are at record high prices. Queens is great value within New York, but let's not pretend it's cheap in absolute terms. Con number 5, noise and density. Last one, and this is more of a lifestyle note than a deal breaker, but it does matter. Queens is a dense urban borough, and depending on where you land, that comes with noise. If you're near JFK or LaGuardia flight paths, you'll hear planes frequently, especially in the summer. Some areas get overhead traffic every 60 to 90 seconds during peak flight times. If you're near an elevated subway line like the number 7 or the N train, you'll feel it in the windows. Even in the quieter, more suburban-feeling eastern neighborhoods, you rarely get the genuine silence of a Suffolk cul-de-sac. There's always something: a siren, a bus, a neighbor's yard. For people coming from truly quiet suburban environments, that's a real adjustment. For people coming from Manhattan, Queens will feel like a retreat. so know which category you're in. The Queen's catch. Okay, before I close, I want to do something a little different because I've been talking in pros and cons, but the real Queens experience is more like a catch-22. The same things you love about this borough are the exact same things that come back to bite you. Let me show you what I mean. Let's talk about the dream and let's talk about the 2026 reality. I'm close to the airport. The 2026 reality is you hear every takeoff and landing from your living room. Every single one. The dream. I can easily drive to the beach. But the 2026 reality is you'll spend an hour finding a parking spot when you come back. The dream. I have more space than Manhattan, but the 2026 reality is you pay a city tax premium just to have that extra bedroom. The dream. I'm in the world's borough. The 2026 reality, aging sewers means a heavy rain can flood your world-class global kitchen. That's Queens. It gives you everything and then it reminds you where you live. And honestly, after all these years, I wouldn't trade it. So here's the summary. Queens is for the person who wants Manhattan energy, Long Island space, and the world's best food, all in one zip code. It is genuinely an extraordinary place to live if those things matter to you. But it's not for someone who needs silence, who hates traffic, who works deep in Eastern Queens without a car, or is running from a tight budget. The cons are real and they deserve your honest consideration. I say all of this as someone who was raised here, went to school here, built a business here, and whose family is still here. I'm not neutral about Queens. I love this borough, but loving a place means being honest about it. And I hope that's what you got today. The key is knowing which trade-offs you can live with and which ones you can't. That's a very personal calculation, and it's exactly the kind of conversation I have with my clients every single day. If this video helped you get a clearer picture, please hit the like button. It helps more people in your situation find this content. And be sure to subscribe so you can catch the next one. And if you're ready to talk specifics, whether you're buying, selling, or just trying to figure out if Queens is the right move for you, reach out. Please call or text me at 646-651-7127. I was raised here. My family is here. My business is here. This isn't just a market to me. It's home. And I would genuinely love to help you find yours. I'll see you in the next video.